15 and verse number 17. If you're there, say, I'm there.
I'm there.
But when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? Look at somebody and ask them, why am I going through this? Ask them again. Say, why am I going through this? I will arise and go to my father, and I'll say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. Tell somebody you got to start somewhere. Tell them even if you got to start over, you got to start somewhere. Tell them one more time, even if you got to start over, you got to start somewhere. And he arose and came to his father, but when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Look at what he said in verse 21. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father, somebody say the father. Say it like you mean it. Say the father. Say it like you know what it's like to have a father. Say the father. The father said to his servants, bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. The last verse, 24. For this my son was dead and is alive again. Somebody say alive again. One more time, say alive again. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. Paul Tillich helps us to understand the dynamics of failure. He poignantly pens in his prolific writings that he who risks and fails can be forgiven, but he who never risks and never fails is a failure in his whole being. And the beauty of God has a proclivity, has a propensity in his personality towards people who are determined to make it anyhow. Look at somebody and tell them, neighbor, I'm determined to make it anyhow. And this is why decision making is critical, because it is rooted in the courage of being free. I want to make decisions that lead to my liberation and my ability to live a life of choice and not a life of force. There's some things that I want in my life and in my lifetime, and I've got to make some decisions to get it. Tell somebody, go get it. Go get it. But this is a part of the fulfillment of your personal destiny. This is a part of the fulfillment of your personality and the dynamics of your personality, that you understand that there are some things that you just got to go through to get to what you're going through to get. So look at somebody and tell them one more time, neighbor, go get it. Say, neighbor, go get it. And part of getting it is understanding that sometimes you have to let go so you can grow. Get somebody by the hand like you're trying to hold on to them, like you're trying to rescue them, and tell them, neighbor, say, neighbor, 2013 is my year to let go so I can grow. So when I count to three, just let go of them. Say, let go. I gotta let you go. As a matter of fact, practice. You got 3 or 4 people, you gotta let go before March really sets in. Look at them and say, I gotta let you go. And that requires, brothers and sisters, that you maintain some perspective, because times are challenging, and you have to remind yourself constantly that your life is an event in progress, and no matter what, the best is yet to come. That's why you've got to learn the lesson and know the difference between being a victim and being a student of your circumstances. I don't know if I've got anybody in here, but if I haven't learned what to do, I've learned what not to do. And made up in my mind there are some things that I will never do again. This is why Paul says, when I was a child, I spake as a child, but now that I'm grown, now that I have matured, I understand some things clearer now than I did then. Somebody holler now. That's why you got to let go of resentment, because resentment is the poison that you swallow hoping the other person will die. And so every now and then you got to let yourself off the hook and others as well. Look at somebody behind them and say, neighbor, let it go. That requires, brothers and sisters, that you stay centered. And if you're going to get revenge, I came to tell you, you can get it positively. The best way to get revenge over an enemy or a hater is to keep on living your life, especially with a smile on your face. I ain't got nobody that's going to help me but smile and tell your neighbor, I got to keep on living. Albert Einstein says it poignantly that you cannot solve a problem by staying in the same energy in which it was created, which simply means that every now and then, to get to the next chapter in your life, you got to turn the page. And a part of turning the pages, brothers and sisters, is learning the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is the scent that the rose leaves on the heel that has tried to crush you. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it does enlarge your future. Put your hand to your brow and tell your neighbor, I still have a future. You see, pain comes in to rob you of the promise of your future, for pain is the fist that knocks you down, but forgiveness is the hand that helps you back up again. So put your hand in somebody else's hand and say, neighbor, you can get up again. Get somebody else by the hand and say, neighbor, you can get up again. Grab somebody in front of you and say, neighbor, you can get up again. In Luke chapter 15, this chapter bears witness, of the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost son. In this installment, Jesus highlights the immaturity and the insecurity and the insensitivity of an irrational child that has gone wild. His foolishness, his recklessness, his thoughtlessness, his regardlessness, his selfishness, his guiltlessness is now on the platform of the pages of a parable, and Jesus points out that it all led to him being penniless. His reason, his rebellion, and his resistance. See, brothers and sisters, there is something that is dangerous that happens to us when we're dealing with uncontrolled desires and uncontrolled wants and pleasures and tastes and tendencies and temptations. Look at somebody and tell them, this year, control yourself. I feel God here. Lay a hand on somebody and say, neighbor, control yourself. That means you got to know when to let go. There are seasons and situations and circumstances and conditions that come when you got to know when to let go, and there is a danger of wanting too much too soon. There is a danger of having too much and so much you don't know how to handle or manage it. There is a danger of going too far, of being too smart, of being too grown. There is a danger faithful. And no matter what you have or what you want, you don't have the right to be disobedient, disrespectful, or dishonorable. When you are thankful, all it takes is a thought to enter your mind that when you think of the goodness of Jesus and all he's done for you, you become an automatic praiser. I need somebody in here who can look at March 2013 and thank God for March 2012, because had not God brought you to where you are now, you wouldn't have the praise that you got now. If you didn't give me my monitors, I know that you are fighting for your own discernment, your own definement, your own destiny. And I hear you quoting 2 Chainz. I'm different, yeah, I'm different. Pulling up to the scene with my ceiling missing and my middle finger up and my competition. I'm different. Look at somebody and tell them, I'm different. I got somebody else quoting Meek Mill. I'm young and I'm getting it. I'm young and I'm just living it. And I want the money and I keep the switches because I'm young and I'm getting it. But there's one thing in being young and getting it and old and losing it. Look at the neighbor and say, don't lose it. That's why the power of discipline is important. The writer says if you keep your mind stayed on him, he will give you perfect peace. Paul the apostle says that I must buffet my body. I must keep it in the subjection. There is something to be said about a disciplined appetite or a disciplined attitude or a disciplined attraction or disciplined affections. Nudge your neighbor to neighbor. Everything don't turn me on now like it used to turn me on. And traditionally, when we look at this text here, Jason, we look at the prodigal son. But I came to talk about the providential parent because there is a parent in the picture. A parent of promise, a parent of provision, a parent of presence, a prepared parent, and a parent of prayer. Nudge your neighbor again and your neighbor. When you let go, there are times you got to let go to save yourself and your sanity. Slip your arm around your neighbor and say, neighbor, let it go and let them go to save yourself. High five your neighbor and say, neighbor, I ain't gonna let it drive me crazy. I got to let him go. I got to let her go. And I got to let them go. And finally, I got to let God be God in my life. So here, the proverbial providential parent knows that sometimes you have to let those whom you love go as far, go as long, and spend as much as they need to find out what you've been trying to tell them all the while. Help me here, Kevin Hart. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I'm going to learn you something tonight. All right, all right, all right. Every now and then, you got to let go and let them know that you're willing to let them go. So slip your arm around your neighbor and say, neighbor, I'm not too ashamed and I'm not too ashamed to let you go. But you got to know when you let them go, let them know. Don't expect me to be where you left me. Don't expect me to be who you left me. And don't expect me to be in the same frame of mind, the same physical condition, the same emotional condition, or the same spiritual condition. All things have passed away, and behold, all things are new. I believe I preach here. Every time stage? Where are the praisers? Look at somebody and say, neighbor, I ran out of money. I ran out of friends. I ran out of family. But I still got days. I still got weeks. I still got months ahead of me. I see myself in the future, and things are looking a whole lot better. Where are the praisers? Do not deceive. God is not mocked. You shall reap what you have sown. That's the revelation of repentance. If we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us. I'm so glad I'm in a place tonight called New Hope. That means that God is about to give somebody another chance. Wave your hand over somebody's head and say, neighbor, God is taking you from here to there. Tell somebody else, God is taking you from here to there. You got to know that whatever it is, it's under the blood. I said the blood. I said the blood. Take your right hand and wave it over your neighbor and holler the blood. Scream the blood. Yeah, the blood. The blood. The blood that Jesus shed for me. Way back on Calvary. Get somebody by the hand and say, neighbor, I'm so glad that God specializes in another chance. That's why the prodigal son was able to put his life back on track, get himself together, but he was willing to start all over. Look at somebody and say, neighbor, I'm so glad it ain't over, because tonight I can start over. I'm so glad it ain't over, because tonight I can start over. Tell 3 people, you can start over. You can start here. You can start now. This is the day that the Lord has made. That's why Paul said it this way. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and not of yourselves. It's the gift of God. Slip your arm around somebody and say, neighbor, it sounds crazy, but Merry Christmas, Happy birthday, Happy anniversary. God gave you a brand new opportunity to live your life. Tell 4 people, live, 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 shout live, scream live, yell live, holler live, let everything that have breath raise a praise, scream, yeah, holler, live, 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 live. Turn around 1 time and holler, live, live. Live, live. High five your neighbor and Give him a scream. Give him a yes. I got to go. I got to go. But before I leave, I got to tell you that this text bothered me. Sion, when I read it, the Father was not surprised. The Father was not alarmed. The Father was not dismayed. When he saw his Father, when he saw his Son, look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, don't forget it. I expect to see you again. Somehow, some way, the Lord will take care of you. He may not come when you want it, but he's always on time. Lay your hand on somebody and say, neighbor, I expect to see you again, but next time, bigger, larger, better, shout it! Lean back, sway your shoulders, and scream better! Better! Yell it! Scream it! Shout it! Better! Look at somebody and say, neighbor, I know how I'm going to be better because I got a God that sits high and looks low and knows my predicament, knows my personality, knows my problem. And when I looked at the text, the Father said, come with me. Bishop, walk down the road with me. Walk down to the gate and walk down the road. Look outside the gate. What do you see? I said, mister, I don't see nothing. He said, come on, let's go back to the house. I said, mister, what do you want now? He said, go back out to the gate with me. What do you see? I said, mister, I don't see nothing. He said, walk back out to the house with me. I said, mister, what do you want? He said, walk out to the gate with me. He said, what you don't know is I expect my boy to come home any day now. Look at somebody and say, neighbor, I expect my blessing any day now. I expect my healing any day now. I expect my breakthrough. Now guess what? You ain't gotta wait until the battle's over. You can shout, you can holler, you can yell, you can scream. When I count to 3, I need 30 people to give God a Shabbat. 1, 2, 3. Scream, holler, shout, scream, holler, shout. The man said, Bishop, go to New Hope and tell them because of my expectation